Good Sunday evening, and welcome to this another edition of our Sunday afternoon program, yet to be named. We haven't named it yet. You have not been sending me any suggestions, so I'm still waiting on you. But it's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I'm showing Tim in the Grenadines. In Europe, where I am, on my co-host, where we are, it's late evening, but it's the afternoon conversation on Sunday, and it begins right now. No, it's just a second. It's just a second Sunday afternoon that we've been doing this. So I've not started it out yet. It doesn't have its own theme song. It doesn't have a name. Nothing at all. But all we know is that on a Sunday afternoon, somebody has their phone, and I know it's who, but that's all right. It's a Sunday afternoon, and in time we would figure it out, I'm sure. But it's just that on a Sunday afternoon, you could expect a good conversation on this program with myself, and let me welcome the other host of the program, my brother Richard Cox. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Cian, and good afternoon to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and to everybody who's looking at this podcast or whatever you call it, Cian. I don't know. Yeah, it's a great Sunday evening here in Bonn, Germany. So it's Europe to St. Vincent and the rest of the world, I'm always looking forward to these little discussions. I think they are important, and we can offer different perspective on different things which are happening in the world around us. How are you doing
Mhm.
yourself? I mean, you're looking well. How is London treating you?
Boy, listen, let's just say London Bridge still falling down. It ain't falling yet.
But let us hope it doesn't fall like while you're there, right? And even
It is,
falls like while you're there, that you're
listen,
not walking under it when it's falling down.
it's the strongest bridge I ever hear about because since it's small, it's falling down. And it's still
Yeah.
falling down. You know? But I'm good. I'm in good spirits, thank God. And I had a very busy week, and I'm looking. This week is also going to be an even more busy week for me. I have two assessments this week, so it's crunch time for me. But
Mhm.
it's good, and I hope all viewers, Latoya Paul, good afternoon and good Sunday afternoon to you. Um, I hope all viewers had a good week. They're having a good weekend, and they're just excited for this afternoon's program. Again, as I said, just send us some messages, whether it's you want to tag us on the Facebook page or you want to inbox us. Just let us know if you have any fantastic suggestions for this Sunday program, a name for the Sunday program, and we would go through them and we'll choose one of them because we want to give it a name, yeah? Because it's not a play with Sian Marshall. That's Thursdays, right? Let me apologize again for none last Thursday. I would endeavor to do one this Thursday, even if it means doing a rerun. So there would not be a dead space on Thursday evening. But again, as I mentioned, I have two assessments, one on Wednesday, one on Friday. Sandwiched between both assessments is a Thursday. And so it's going to be a little difficult for me to focus on creating a program for that Thursday. So, please forgive me in advance, but I'll try to have something there on Thursday so that there's no dead air. All right. So, Richard, it's been a fantastic week. Um, Lots of things happened both at home in our region and also in globally.
Yeah.
Um, this afternoon on the program, we're going to be having our friend Terence Bino from Canawan, who will
Yes.
be speaking with us about his experience during the passage of Hurricane Beryl and what he saw firsthand, because I know he did a live um, on Union Island, and so he'd give us his own experiences of that situation in the Southern Grenadines following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. That's the first hour. After Terence Lee, the second hour, we'll be discussing some of what is happening in St. Vincent and Grenadines. We know that there was a poll conducted, and we'll delve into that a little bit to see exactly what it means, what's the significance, and what should be
Yes.
some of the takeaways of that poll. Um, but other than that, uh, it was a smooth week. Nothing drastic happened. My friend Annette, I read in the newspapers that she has been appointed Chief Executive Officer of the Tourism Authority. So I congratulate Annette Mack. Annette, of course, Richard, your good friend,
Yeah.
who was the former Executive Director of Invest SVG. Seems it's turning out now that it was probably a straight swap. Glenn to invest
But,
and,
but
and
this,
Annette
this is,
to.
you know, it's sort of changing faces, you know.
Yeah.
Before you go on, Cena, I just want to join you in welcoming Miss Latoya Paul, if that's the correct pronunciation. And just want to ask her and everyone else to share the live so that everybody know that we're here. And
Yes,
Cena, if you allow me, I think you would want to also invite them, not just to submit a name, but also um, probably they from time to time they would want us to answer questions, or they want a particular thing that they might want us to address.
of
Uh,
course, of course.
we can also say to them that
Rochelle, good afternoon.
if somebody sends you a name which you select, I wouldn't tell them what the price is, but they will get an extremely special price. You know what
All
it
right.
is, right?
Okay.
But
No
you
problem.
know what it
No
is.
problem. No
Extremely special,
problem. No
right?
problem. Extremely special price.
Extremely
Absolutely.
special. But if you
Absolutely.
select anybody's name, because we might well come up with something which we like, you never know,
Right, right,
right?
right, right.
But should we select somebody's suggestion, that person would be given credit for it, and they would get I guarantee, an extremely special price.
All right.
Tia
Sounds good.
knows what it
I agree with
is.
that. I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. So, like I said, those of you who come on again, please use your page and share it so that your friends who are on the page can log on as well to this program. Richard, so yes, we were congratulating Annette on her appointment
Yes,
as
yes,
CEO of Tourism Authority, and I
yes,
wish her all the best. I wish her well in her
yeah,
new position in the new portfolio, and I'm sure she'd bring, um, in the same way she added value to the mandate at Invest SVG, she would
yeah,
add value to the mandate at the Tourism Authority.
yeah.
Um, people who are interested in advancing St. Vincent Readings and making
Uh,
sure that St. Vincent Readings goes
uh,
forward.
Yeah. If I may add in relation to what you're saying, and probably I need to get a cup of coffee as well. But when I drink coffee, I then don't sleep, you know. But just to say this, and I think you would agree with me, Cian, and I think this is why Miss Mark accepted the position, probably because St. Vincent and the Grenadines is really hot property in tourism these days. There's no if and buts about that. It's a
Mm,
rising, a rising opening market. It's a fantastic time to be in charge of tourism, from that standpoint, And I think it's going to be a very challenging position, but I think Miss Mark is equal to it. And I believe people like yourself, like those of us who have an opportunity to help in pushing the product and in pushing St. Vincent, we must not just see it as the Ministry of Tourism's job, or the tourism
absolutely, absolutely.
um,
Authorities, yeah.
authority's job or Miss Marx's job, but we must all see ourselves as ambassador for this wonderful country and this good product that we have. So I would want to say to you that probably when Miss Marx sets in a bit, we can invite her, you can invite her and have a conversation with her, you know. When she settles in, because of course it's early days yet and she's not yet settled.
Of
But I think
course,
that would
of
be a
course.
I think that would be a wonderful thing for you to discuss, to hear her perspective and see where she goes, as you have done with the former um, person in charge who's now at Invest SVG. You had a very good
Well, you would
conversation with.
also remember, Richard, that you'd also remember that Annette, as executive director of Invest, was on uplift with Sehon Marshall previously,
Yes,
is speaking about everything Vinci Expo and so forth. So
yes,
Annette is a friend of the program, and that's the thing. Just because of my own involvement, Glenn knows whether he was at when he was at tourism where I chaired one of their functions, or at Invest, where as ED, I chaired his first function, which was everything Vinci Expo. I chaired
yes.
that. I offered the
I remember.
support. And as well, I work very well with Annette as ED of Investment Strategy, and no doubt if there's anything at all that she reaches out and inquires and requires my assistance for, it's all about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So absolutely, I'm going to be ever ready and willing to do whatever I can to assist her in the mandate of lifting St. Vincent and the Grenadines higher. So, she has my support in the same that Glenn has my support, in the same way that anybody who is in charge or is involved in executing any task or mandate on behalf of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has my support.
Mhm.
It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
also, Richard,
Yes.
also this week, some 22 students from St. Vincent and the Grenadines were awarded scholarships to pursue
Yes.
studies in the Republic of China, Taiwan. The government and people of Taiwan has been quite generous over the last 20 plus years in offering scholarships to Vincentians. As you know, it's no secret, and I say it all the time. My own daughter is currently there, finishing up.
Yeah.
I think she's going into her final year of studies there. And so I thank on behalf of my own self and the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines who may not have the platform to do it publicly, but who would love for me to do it on their behalf. Thank the government and people of Taiwan and the good ambassador in St. Vincent as well, Ambassador Fan, for their work, their
Yeah.
assistance, their generosity to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and specifically to the young people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, ensuring that our mandate, the plan of the government in creating this new economy, this modern economy that involves the education of our young people, is given the type of impetus and support that we need as a developing country to achieve our goals. So I can't say enough thanks to the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan for this.
There's an element here which I think you, as a person who have worked in foreign relations and in the diplomatic services of our country, as I did, and um, have training in that field as well. Uh, I think, well, before I go on, let me say good evening or good afternoon to Miss Rochelle Bruce. Welcome to the program, and to Patricia D. Riggs. And thank you for sharing. Both of you, please share and let everybody know we're here. But yes, Cian, I think
Mhm.
you will agree that what one of the things here with this is what I would call excellent management of our foreign policy and excellent use of our foreign policy by the
Mhm.
sitting government. There's no if and buts about that, you know. And I heard the Prime Minister speaking um, this of this recent 22 students, and he was giving some figures as regards how much it costs the government and people of Taiwan in doing this. But what's interesting here to note, which I didn't remember until he said it. I knew it, but I didn't remember. It was actually our government. It was he who then. It's not just for us he got it for, but for everybody who has relations with Taiwan in the region. You know, and that's a fantastic thing. You know. And I say that in the light of what has been done. If you remember, the same thing was done when he went to meet Colonel Gaddafi. You know, he didn't get the money for St. Vincent. You understand what I'm saying? But he got it for all of the OECS. I don't know if you recall that. You
Mhm.
know, so I think here what we have to understand, I think what I'm trying to drive from here is for Vincentians to understand, as I always say, and as you sometimes agree with me, that foreign policy is not a piece of embroidery on the tablecloth of governance, but it's a serious instrument for development, you know. And in the case of Taiwan, and not just in the case of Taiwan, in the case of other countries as well, we have seen where our government has used foreign policy as a true instrument of development. As a matter of fact, you personally, Yusian, um, in many ways, your own personal development is also a product of that foreign policy, I would say. I don't know if you would agree with me, but it took you to the United Nations. It took you to being our
Well,
deputy consul.
in order of
You
appearance,
know.
it took me to Azerbaijan.
Yes, you
From
know.
Azerbaijan, everything
So,
else followed because that's where I
I
got the
mean,
training
these are
in
concrete and
in
real
yeah.
results of the foreign policy as it's being managed by the government, and I think that is crucial here. Why I'm saying that, I don't want to bring in party politics into the issue, but the point is this: that uh, we are informed, we are told, we are advised that should the opposition form government in the country, they would change that relation. Now, the
Well,
point
they have
here is
announced. They have announced. It's not we are
yes,
told that they have announced.
yes, right. And so the question here is, does that make overall sense? You understand what I'm saying? Foreign relations is not purely a transactional relation. But
Mhm.
if there is no sense in it, if there is no interest in it, you understand, then why change for change's sake? As you people say, you don't fix something which is not broken. So I think the point of we thanking them is very fundamental, and I know once you return home, you will go and visit the ambassador. If I'm not wrong, I'll tag along with you because I spoke to her when you were leaving, and after that, I never spoke to her again. Although I had promised to do so, I don't remember. But the thing is that um, the development of those relations have become very personal in many ways. You understand what I'm saying? It's not just a state to state apparatus sort of operation, but very very personal and close relations have developed, and for yourself, yourself that her daughter, she has a daughter, I think, and she's part of
Yes,
the
yes,
local dance group, and and things like that. So I mean, the relations have been really very well managed in my view.
excellent, exactly. So that is one of those relationships in the same way that we are nurturing and managing the relationship with Cuba, with the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and so forth, other like-minded countries that where we have similar interests and they contribute to our development actively.
Mm,
We have to continually thank them for their
yes,
assistance and their
definitely.
generosity um, to what we're doing. So that's on the scholarship front. Um, and Richard, you were making the point that Dr. Gonzalez offered a glimpse into the cost of one of those scholarships to the
Yes.
Taiwanese government, to the government of Taiwan. Well, I'm studying in the UK, and I know what it's costing people. As a matter of
Mm,
fact, now that the former government of the UK made it difficult for international students to come to the UK by tightening visa requirements, preventing them from bringing families and so on. And there has been a significant drop in international students coming to the UK as of 2024. And universities are crying
hmm
because they depend heavily on
on the monies that
international
come in.
students.
Yes, from
Absolutely.
foreign
You know,
students.
the fees, and by the way, let me just say this. One of the programs very soon, because I've already spoken to him, we're going to have James Snyder, and James is going to talk about some of these and other issues. But the tuition for UK citizens is capped at £9,250 per year. A university cannot charge them more than £9,250, but they can charge, and it is estimated that the average cost per year for tuition only for an international student is £22,000. The average. Now, mind you, that's just tuition. That has
Yeah,
not yet discussed living expenses, which
nothing
in many
else.
instances
Just tuition.
is almost
Yeah.
equal
Yes.
to tuition. Your rent, your food,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
transportation, and all those kind of things. So imagine an international student paying £40,000 a year. Imagine that just
Yeah.
to study in the UK. You know,
And
so when you get a scholarship, you understand the value of that, not just the
hmm
cost of it, but the value of it to your own development. And so you can't slight what Cuba is doing for us. You can't slight what Taiwan is doing for us. You can't slight what Russia is doing for us, or Azerbaijan or Turkey has done for us, or Morocco, because
yes.
these things are not cheap.
And not only that, they you see the thing is that there is this great multiplier effect that comes from all of this, because once a medical doctor is trained in Cuba, he comes back home and he works with the government or whatever. You understand? And you have a new professional who then offers his service to the country. increasing the amount of professional services being offered. And in the case of ours, where public health is generally free, generally speaking, free. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
The multiply effect goes on, but outside of that, it's an inspiration for others. Okay, Mr. Marshall has done it. He got a scholarship. I'll get one too. You know, and it goes on and on. You know, and therefore things like that must not be taken lightly at all. One other thing I want to say in relation to the management of foreign policy, in our relations with Taiwan, with Venezuela, etc., etc. You know, as you can see, those relations are not narrow seeing. They don't just attack one particular point of our development. You know, we have relations with them with culture, with agriculture, with education. You know, with providing instruments of modern technologies, whether they're computers or things like that. So we have all of that, and the truth is that I had said to Dr. Gonzalez that there must be a book written about the foreign policy of St. Vincent, 1920, 2000 and one, to the present, because it has been a remarkable story, and a remarkable story in many, many ways. The results and the images from that foreign policy are around us each and every day. Uh, the roads we travel on, the public library we use, the airport that we use, okay, the bridge across Ravaka that we use, improvements in agriculture, the literal thousands of students now, that we have around the world studying, the assistance that we have gotten, for example, from Patrick Manning in building Manning Village. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And other houses that we have gotten through Guyana and through Venezuela and so on and so forth. You will recall that when the ULP came to power, the storage capacity we had for fuel for electricity was 48 hours, really, 2 days. You understand what I'm saying?
Right,
Well, it was
right.
48 hours, 2 days, with the assistance of the Venezuelans, right? We have storage capacity, if I think now, a month and a half or something like that. You understand? The difference is unimaginable, unimaginable. And all of that was because what? You were able to effectively use foreign policy as a tool for development. So I think
Absolutely.
that kind of depth of understanding of what really this is all about, and how it has been done over the last, say, 20 to 23 years. And as I said, people like yourself are genuine products, genuine result of this foreign policy. Let us not fool ourselves about this. It has nothing to do with what your party political beliefs are. It has to do with what is the objective reality
But
which has
yes,
been obtained.
absolutely,
That is what it
absolutely.
is. You know, that is what it is. So we have got to look at that now. Talking about the foreign policy, I don't know if you want to move a little to that, because I know we have our brother coming up right now. But
Yeah.
the whole thing about Venezuela and the elections and what is happening there, and our own role as regards one of the nations who immediately recognized the legitimacy of the government, because the elections was an open and transparent process, and other forces who have tried to overthrow a democratically elected government. These are serious issues, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines had an exercise, I think, a day or two ago, right? In a friendship exercise in support of the Venezuelan government. The re-elected government of President Nicolas Maduro, and I think it is incumbent upon people like you and I, who don't just understand a little bit of local politics, but we also have worked in the field of diplomacy. We know what this is about. We also understand the role that Venezuela has played in helping in the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines over the last 22 years. I think it's important also that Vincentians are made to understand why we are so vehement that the people's choice must be respected. in Venezuela. I think these are important issues.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do not understand. Well, let me not say I don't understand why, but that is the challenge I have in understanding the real dichotomy of what certain neo-colonialist powers preach versus what they practice.
Hmm.
That they talk about democracy and so forth, but what they seek to do in other people's country, the meddling that they do, and I mean, take for example what happened in 2016 in the US. Up to today, they're still talking about Russian interference in their election. But the US has been accused time and again, over and over and over, of interfering in not just elections, but in removing democratically elected governments from across the globe. So
What?
sometimes
What?
when you hear that, when you hear the discussion and the talk about they being the beacon of democracy, sometimes you wonder how real is that?
What? Well, the facts are. This has nothing to do with accusation. The facts are there to prove this. Allende was removed in 73 by the CIA, and nobody refutes that. Jacob Arbenz was removed in 1954 in Guatemala. Nobody disputes that. President Aristide was thrown out of his country, Haiti, and nobody disputes that. And we could go on and go on. I mean, the longest
The Shah of
U.S.
Iran, I mean, and you
You
could go
know,
on and on and on and on and on.
the longest U.S. Um, occupation in Latin America was in Nicaragua from 1912 to 1933, 1911 to 1933, which was 22 years. Actual, being in the country and running the country, and so. And we could go on and go on. I mean,
Yes, we can.
Honduras or Guatemala or Nicaragua. The International Court of Justice dealt with this matter, right? They
Yes,
mined the
yes,
waters off of the
yes.
coast of
Of Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, and
Yes,
no ships could go
absolutely.
in there. These are all facts. This is not. We know of the Bay of Pigs
In
invasion
Cuba.
of Cuba.
Yes,
You understand?
yes.
These are not accusations, Ian. These are historical facts recorded in history. You see, because in
Okay, so
18
we got hold of this discussion because
okay.
our friend is in. So we
Okay,
got to
he's
start the
in now.
discussion.
All right.
Yes, so let me welcome our good friend and brother from the Republic of Canaan.
Yes, sir.
Watch out the man on people
Thanks
TV.
for
Watch
welcoming me.
watch out the man on people big screen.
My brother, you have to forgive me because I'm still busy. We're doing we thing. We had
Absolutely,
to rebuild.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Terry, good afternoon. How are you, everybody?
I'm all right, my brother and friend. My
My
comrade
general,
Richard.
Absolutely.
my general, how are you? It's good to see you, man. It's always good to see you. I
Thank
salute
you
you.
very much.
I salute you.
Thank you very much.
How is the
No,
family before we go into business? How is the family? How is everybody?
Everybody is fine, and I must tell you, I'm doing this live from inside my vehicle by the roadside.
we could see that. We could see that. We could see that. We could see that.
Okay.
As soon as you're
This
done the
has to be my
program,
office. This has to be my
make sure you
office for
tell
now.
make sure you tell Debbie, me say good evening, eh? Just make sure you tell Debbie, me say howdy.
I
All right.
will do.
Right.
Will
Yeah.
Okay.
do.
All
Please
right.
give them our best regards.
All
All
right.
right.
And still
Yes,
Humphrey,
sir.
good afternoon, and thank you so much for logging on. And please share the live. Terry, this afternoon we wanted to have the conversation, Richard and I, with you about the passage of Hurricane Beryl, your own experience on Canawan. I know I saw a few live and so forth, and you were narrating people roof blowing up and people window getting knocked out and so forth. And following that, you went on the island of Union Island, and I suspected you would have gone to Mario as well, because that's just you could walk with it, right? Um, First of all, give us your experience leading up to the passage of burial, and then tell us exactly your experience during burial and whether or not you've experienced anything like that before.
My brother, I don't even think people at 70 years old have experienced anything like that before. because I heard people speak about Hurricane Janet in 1955. So that can tell you. Some people who are 80 something years old will tell you they were about 10, 12 years old when that happened. And in those days, you had grass houses. So even if your roof did blow away, your house blow away, just go back and get fresh grass and you're gone again.
Mm.
But I must tell you, my brother, the afternoon when this thing started, the morning, early the morning, the wind was not that high, but it was really blowing. And we had a yacht got away from its moorage in Canouan Harbor and came ashore. So we went to help the guys them get it off and so on. And this was before the hurricane actually came down. And when they were moving this yacht, when we got it out, the yacht were actually full throttle ahead and were barely moving at 1 knot or so. And that is when I realized this thing is going to be very serious because it haven't arrived on us yet. And it was blowing that hard. So when I get home, I go to my window and I looking at the south side facing Tobago Keys. And I was seeing waves like 12 and 14 feet tall that I've never seen in my lifetime before in that area of Canouan.
Wow.
And I said to myself, this is going to be very serious. And I start seeing roof and galvanized flying from other areas, landing on other roof. And I decide, boy, I had to get away from this window, and then the internet service cut completely. Are you there?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
hear.
So when the internet service cut and the wind really start getting hard, my windows were like
Oh my
shaking.
God.
So I put my hand on the window frame, thinking, well, that may help, you know.
Yes.
And then at one time I said, let's move away from the window because glass can fly. And then my brother, about an hour and a half into this, it make a calm down. It calmed down for like maybe 30 seconds. The wind just break. And then we notice the wind start going in the opposite direction. I
Yeah.
hear people say the sea wind blow. Nobody see wind blow, but in this instance, you could actually see the wind direction in which it was spinning.
Mm-hmm.
With those little drizzle that was falling. You can see
Mm-hmm.
the white marks going around in circles. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when the roof really went. And I say, my God, the roof went, and I head to the laundry room, and I
No,
made
no,
about
no,
three
no.
attempts
Stop,
to,
stop, stop a second, please, Terence.
yeah,
Let's make sure our audience understand what you're saying. Your roof went. Your roof came off your house. That's what you're saying.
my roof came off the house it didn't
Oh
even
my
take
God.
2 seconds to go. Didn't take 2 seconds to go. All I heard
Okay.
was a loud song saying, whoop, and the roof was gone. It
Oh my God.
was gone. I mean,
Yes.
I can tell you, if this was night, these islands probably would have been stink with a lot of dead bodies.
Jesus.
It would have been stink. This thing was so heavy. So listen, when my roof go and I happened to get downstairs, I made 3 attempts to go out and couldn't move. And I had to pull back in, and then when the laundry room ceiling cave in, I decided I have to go for it. Live or dead. I got to go for it. And I jumped through that window because I couldn't get out my door. My door was blocked with galvanized and lumber from other people's roof. So I couldn't get out the door. I had to go through a window. I tried to reach for the downstairs and then open the window so the rest of the family could come down, jump the window and jump back into another one. And we spent a couple hours inside there before this thing stopped. And when I peep out my window and saw the damage over on my side where I live, I say, my God. And then everything stopped. And we decide to, everybody now from every home, decide to come out on the street to really see what happened. The streets were blocked with telephone poles and wires, people roof. All the telephone poles were broken in pieces. And when everybody meet up by walking through the village, and I see what happened to the rest of Canon. I say, by God, this is like a horror movie. You know, when you're
Yeah.
watching a horror movie, you just couldn't believe that something like this would happen in your lifetime. You know,
The, Terrence, before you go on, I just have to ask this because I really want to know. When all of that terror was happening, when I mean your roof had blown away and you were actually trapped. You were trapped in your house with your family. What came to your mind? Did you think death was approaching you? I mean, I really want to know how what because as you said, you made 3 attempts to get out to go downstairs and you couldn't, right? And then you said, the way your words, you said, live or die, death or not, I have to do this. What
I
were
have to
your
do this.
feelings psychologically there? Tell me, talk to us about that. What
And
did you feel and how did and
to
could you tell
to
us
be
something
honest
about
with
how
you,
your family
to be
felt?
honest with you, the way this thing was terrifying, you tell yourself it's going to be the last time your eyes would ever be open. It was so terrifying. I'm telling you, it's like it's unbelievable that persons one was not sucked out of their houses. Because if this wind, the way it was doing, could take roofs so easily, it means that you could have been sucked out. You watch galvanized pole, galvanized tangle in electrical wires, wrap around like you actually wrap it around with your own hands. You tell yourself
Mm,
that you would never live to see this end. And it really surprised me because in this kind of wind, you could tell nothing else that it was like tornadoes.
yeah, yeah.
Because if it destroyed my house, there might be a little plywood house next door and it didn't even get touched because these tornadoes like they were winding themselves in all
Yeah,
angles.
yeah.
Mm.
Because there's some places that the plywood structure, there's a plywood church here. No plywood church could withstand a Category 4 hurricane.
Mm.
Not a window was broken, not a galvanized were moved, not a plywood were break, nothing. Absolutely nothing at all happened to that plywood church. So you know it was
Amazing stuff.
tornadoes walking its path.
Amazing stuff, you know.
You know,
It's true.
really, really amazing. So I was rather surprised persons were not sucked out of their houses. The way because I watch roof in the sky spinning like a fan, and instead of coming down, it keep going up until
Yeah.
you see it no more.
Oh my word.
You
What
see
what
it
was
no
the
more.
level of what was the level of destruction at the school, Terrence? I know I was only a couple years ago. You and I went to the school. What was the level of destruction to the schools?
Again, in the school compound, there are one, two, three new buildings that make up the complex for the
Yes,
secondary school. And
right.
there's an old building. There's an old building that was built there around 1972.
Mm-hmm.
That old school, old primary school building, nothing happened to it. And all the roof for the new school disappeared.
Yeah.
The administrative building, the roof disappeared.
Wow. Wow.
I'm serious, man. Man,
Uh,
I'm telling you, the only reason now, the streets looking good again. Life seems to be normal, but you would see the roof off, so hurricane is what did it. But we are getting back to normal. We are getting back to normal.
yeah. Before
It
we
was
get
it was said it was said, Terry. One second, Richard. I'll
yeah.
give you another
No,
question.
no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
When it was said that on Union Island about 98% of the homes are either damaged or destroyed, what's the figure like for Kanawan
Um,
from your
I would
estimation?
say Can one would destroy about 90%. 90%. Some of the roofs are easy to go back on based on the damage that they got. But every house in Canaan, except maybe for 15, were touch.
Okay.
Except maybe
Mm.
for 15.
And well, my question I'm seeing was leading right into yours, actually, the same thing. I wanted to know, in terms of deaths on Canavan, how many people died on Canavan directly
No, no,
related
no,
to
no, nobody died. Nobody died, and I didn't even smell any stinkness as if to even say animal died.
Okay, okay.
What about
So no,
injuries?
nobody died.
What about injuries?
Injuries, no, haven't heard of any.
Okay.
Um, what really worked for Canavan though is some people have two-story buildings. You know what you call upstairs and
Yeah,
downstairs.
yeah,
Right,
yes.
The
right.
persons would have really used the downstairs
It
for
says
shelter. You know,
to secure
so
themselves.
that would have really worked. The basement would have really worked. If it was a one flat, then it's a different
Yeah,
story. You know, so that would have really worked in our favor. But
yeah.
when I see the level of damage in Canoan, and then my brother, I journey to Union and Myro, and when I see the level of destruction in Union and Myro, I saw maybe, and I've traveled in Union all to Campbell, down in Ashton, and I've probably see 5 or 6 houses in Union Island that were not touched. Maybe 5 or 6.
Mm.
And Union has 2.5 times the amount of homes as
Yeah,
Canoan.
Cameron, yes, I know.
And when I saw the damage, I quickly said in my head, the government would be looking for about 400 million US dollars to
Hmm.
rebuild these islands.
And you're not far off. You're really not
And
far off. You might be
bear,
actually absolutely right.
bear in mind, bear in mind that tourism in these islands, both islands, Cano and Myra Union Island, they work together where tourism is concerned. Because when guests come to Canoan, they want to see Union Island, they want to see Myro, they want to see Tobago Keys.
Yes,
Otherwise, it doesn't worth the trip.
yes.
You know, they don't come to Canoan just to stay in Canoan. You know, so these islands has to basically build back together to
Okay.
start back this tourism niche. Union Island, I am afraid they're doing a lot of work in Union Island. It's devastated bad. But the mountain is high.
Okay.
The mountain is
That's
high.
a very good
It
way of
simply
putting it.
means that there's a lot more to be done.
Hmm.
Now,
You
Terry,
know,
the wind calmed, and naturally, your first instinct is to go out and see what the extent of the damage is, not just to your property, but of course, Canawan is a small community. People related, people are friends. So let me see how my neighbor do, how my friend do, and so on. What was the mood like going out, Terry? What was the condition of people that you met immediately at that time as you walked around after the wind had calmed down?
my brother, when you look on people's face, when you look on people's faces, and bear with me because I'm trying to plug up some charge here. You know how the situation. You know how the situation is.
Yes.
Yes. When you look at people's face, when you meet them on the street, I could tell there was no smile. There couldn't be no smile. You didn't even know if people could smile anymore.
Wow.
You know, they were all sadness, despair. It's like you're saying your lifetime work has
Yeah.
just ended, and where am I going to start from again? Personally, I would like to say I want to thank the government and all who make it possible to help put back on people's roof. Because at my age, 57, after working and build what I've owned, I was wondering how am I going to start again?
Hmm. And
How are
you
you
know,
going to start over at this age?
yes. Just before I ask my question, I just want to remind everybody we are on. It's not up late. We don't have a name for the program yet, but please share the live. We have with us the General Terence Bino himself from Canawan, telling us of his experiences with Beryl. Terence, that question of Sians is one of the most fundamental question because I wanted to get to that. um, the hurricane seemed to have broken people's spirit, you know, and they seem to have lost hope. Now the hurricane is over and we are trying to rebuild. Can you give us a sense? Do you think people have now regained some confidence and saying to themselves, yes, we will rebuild and we will come out of this?
Yes, people now have a sense of hope because the homeowner in Canaan, along with the government and other entities, and you would have known the government would have passed some money in Parliament to assist, and the World Bank has chipped in with a loan. Um, and the level of work that is being done and Canaan now, all contractors are involved in putting roof back on. So people now have this smile on their face because they see help. They see things are happening for them. Um, Everybody will get a touch of help from these funds to restore their roof and put some normalcy back to their lives. So yes, there is a smile on people's face. There's some hope. Things will work for them now. I can tell you there's a the place in Balance that used to fry chicken on Friday nights and so on. Even though there is a pole in on the roof, the guy came back out and start frying his chicken again, and persons are getting a little fried chicken, and they're happy, and people are walking about seeing that normalcy is coming back. There's street lights all over Canaan now again because Vinlek had worked very well and fast. So people feel a sense of normalcy coming back to their lives, and I guess that's what is happening now.
Right. Sian, you want to continue, Ash?
Yep. Well, I thought you had one, so no problem. Of
Yeah.
course.
I just wanted to add an additional question to him in relation to this. I think that's important that people's spirits are uh, uh, well renewed, so to put it. But could you give us a sense how much has been you said the mountain in Union is very high, and I agree with you totally. I know that for a fact. But how much rebuilding has been done so far in Canaan, in your estimation? How far has, in other words, what I'm asking you is the pace of reconstruction? Is the people satisfied with the pace of reconstruction? How do you see it? That pace, is it, you know, bearing in mind, of course, that we have Myro to deal with, we have Union to deal with, and so on. But are people satisfied with the pace of? Are you satisfied with the pace of reconstruction?
No one would ever be satisfied with the pace of getting your roof back on because we're talking about hundreds of roofs. But carpenters doesn't wave a magic wand. Everybody would want the house roof back on first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but everybody can't be first. So what they're doing, and we understand this well, there are some people in the shelters, at the school, and the administrative building. Um, the main target is to get some housing fixed first, that we could move persons from the school and the administrative building so you can have government office back up, you can have our kids back in school. So the main thing is to move these people out the shelter. So the contractors are mostly dealing with things like this first. There are two government buildings that were built in 1972 to house teachers. The government is presently repaying those so they can use those two now as the shelters to move the people from the school and the administrative building. Um, Up on Cherry Hill, there were a lot of squatters living there. They were completely destroyed because their structure were plywood and so on. What the government did is got the names of the persons. The lands were already measured. Surveyor come in, give the names, cabinet approve the names, so that they can start construction houses back for them. And you see, this is what I say. A government must be for the people. These persons are now going to have wall houses built out of
Okay.
these funds. They're going to have wall houses. They're now going to get the title to the land and make it formal and legal. Road will be cut and paved as well in that area. So we and those are people who are in shelters as well. So we understand that we have to build these now to get them out of shelter as well. And
Okay.
there are other carpenters who are doing other homes in the village as we speak. So it's being done. It ain't gonna go fast because a house roof doesn't take one day to go on. It's
Mm-hmm.
carpentry. You have to do your thing, and then you have to bear in mind we now have to build stronger. We can't put back the plate on top the wall and then put the rafters on top the plate. We're now looking to cast in these rafters in the concrete, make them stronger to withstand the wind a little better. So, but they're going well. Everybody's getting help. There are some persons who say, "Give me the material." They will go down. They will do an estimate. Persons will get the material. They will sign off on it, and then they will get somebody to do their work. Even if you don't have carpenters that the state is now paying to do so, there are persons who have carpenters in their home and they can do their own homes themselves. So these are the things that are happening. So I think it's going fair across the board at this time, and we're just hoping that everyone would get help, so no one would be left behind to blame the government for anything at the end of all this.
Okay.
Terry, and I hear that. Of course, the government is going to get blamed regardless, but that's not the issue I want to raise. The issue I want to raise with you now is the level of, because you spoke about shelters, and so I want to get from you a sense of the number of individuals in shelters and the number of individuals who've evacuated the island completely. Uh, because I know, especially in Union, individuals, residents had to move because they had nowhere to go. You had your home
Yes.
was gone, your residence gone, and even the intended shelters were also damaged. What is that situation like on Canawan in terms of the level of evacuation off island and the number of individuals in shelters still?
We had a break in transmission there.
Okay, so I was asking you about. You heard me? I think we're having some internet issues there with Terry. I don't know if his battery died. I don't know if his internet gone, but I don't know if Terry's hearing me. He's frozen on the screen. Also, Richard has stepped away a little bit as well. So I don't know if any of uh, whether Terry or Richard, but if Terry joins back, okay, I see Terry is coming back in. So I guess the first one is let's see now. All right, let's try this now. Yes, Terry. Um, so you had dropped out for a while, Terry.
Yes.
Yes, and so I was asking you about the level of evacuation off island. How many persons you think would estimate left and have not yet returned, and how many individuals are still in shelters currently on island?
We have roughly about 90 persons or so in shelters. And these are persons mainly from the mainland who are working down here. Um, Nobody actually left Canoan, maybe 5 or 10 persons.
Okay.
Nobody actually leave because everybody's here really trying to make sure that their place is secure and they get it back up. But the 90 or so persons in shelters right across Canoan is mainly persons. Yeah, one or two from Canoan themselves, but their home is getting fixed for them to go back in, and the others will go to the shelter. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So not many individuals left.
No.
Not many
No.
individuals left. People stayed around to make sure that their homes were being taken care of. Um,
Yes.
so in terms of the preparation for the new school term, where do you see we are? Because I believe professional development week should be next week, or this week. I think this week, yes. Um, and school should be starting soon. Where do
I
you
think
see
I think the
things
ninth,
are?
the ninth.
The ninth, okay. So where do you see things are regarding preparation for school, following the damage that has happened to the new buildings that were built as part of the complex?
Well, I can tell you the head teacher for the primary school home was not damaged. The head teacher for the secondary school, his roof went, but his roof is back on only because he has to be comfortable enough to take care of the kids when school open. So his roof was done early. We understand that very well. So the school building is the roof is back on, it's finished. They're cleaning and painting, and they're ready. They probably will be ready to take Myro kids and some from Union if we have to. We're more than ready for the school term.
Mm, mm. All right. Richard, any more questions for Terry?
Uh,
I think Richard frees up the. Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. No, if I may, Terrence, this was a frightening experience for you. I was in St. Vincent when it happened. I was at my home, and nothing happened to my home generally. But the winds were terrifying, and like your house, my house is a two-floor house. I could have always gone downstairs if anything were to happen. Um, I'm saying all of that to say this. Two things. One is that I learned from that regardless of how well you build, the force of nature is something you can't contain, And your house is a relatively new house. I know this because we are friends. I know when you built your house and so on, right? And that was one of the first lessons I learned, that the force of nature is something you can't control. But secondly, that you have to be prepared as best as you can be, you know. Um, Before it was all over, everything was knocked out. Not just internet, CN. Light was knocked out. Water was knocked out. Okay. And so you had to have things ready and prepared. And we are taught this all the time. But from a personal standpoint, you being in the center of the storm, what if any fundamental lesson? What did it really teach you? Some people, say, you know what? I heard people say that it tell me to be nearer to God because I don't know when, understand, when he going to call me. Some people told me that, right? Some other people told
Yeah.
me, you know what? The next time I hear that they're going to have a storm like that, I'm moving out. You understand what I'm saying? I ain't staying. That's the lesson I learned. So my point is that many people have given me different lessons. What in your mind? What fundamentally that taught you?
My brother, we have often heard people saying when we hear storm coming, oh, it ain't coming, it ain't coming, it don't ever come. I
Because
think this
God is
would
a
teach
wind
me,
speed.
God
yeah,
doesn't
God is
see.
a bit,
So
and
God change your
it,
citizenship
it
now.
yeah, it teaches me, and I believe everybody else at this time. When you get the warning for storm, I think everybody will be prepared, looking to go into the basement as a shelter. And when they come back out, if the upstairs is still on, we say thank you, Lord. But I think we all learn from this one. And I hope I don't live what life God left with me to see something like this again. Ever. Ever.
Mm.
Okay.
Terry, just something that's someone put on the in the comment there, and you should be familiar with this because I think the MV guidance, the individual who the captain and the crew of MV guidance disappeared, and someone on the live is remembering that and saying that still that put a damper on their spirit. I know guidance was a ship that was from the Grenadines island and so forth. And you may well be familiar with the individual. How are things with that individual and individual's family?
Sian, he's my schoolmate, he's my age group, and he's my friend. And it's really sad. It's really sad what happened with guidance because none of us know what happened. And I glad the person raised this for you to bring up because it came in my mind. I understand PM might be here tomorrow, And I'm glad you raised this because I was thinking that I find his wife tomorrow when the Prime Minister is here so she can speak with the Prime Minister. Um, that's something I want to take up on my hand to do. The Prime Minister doesn't know about it yet, but I think PM would be happy to speak with Guidance wife, Maxwell Buck. Um, any of the family who is around when he come because up to this day we don't know what happened. We know he was in the harbor when the storm hit. He was on anchor. The anchor started dragging, and he tried. They say he tried to get into the marina, but the wind was so strong because you're talking about a boat doing 10 knots, an engine. The storm was a category 4 with 100 and something miles per hour wind, traveling at 20 miles. So it is impossible for a 10 knots boat to go forward with a storm that heavy, traveling at 20 knots. It would certainly push that boat back.
Right.
So I'm glad you raised it so I could remember to find his wife tomorrow when Prime Minister come here. If you do, to have her speak with him because I know she need that level of comfort at this time.
Mm.
I want to. We don't. Well, I don't want to say they die, but I want to say to the families that we sympathize with them.
Yeah.
And what has happened to Guidance. It's really a sad one, and is that something I really like to talk about because he's a good friend to me. I don't pay to travel on that boat. It's really sad, and speaking to you bring water in my eyes about that. So I am really sorry, but we haven't heard anything on them from since that time. So I would just like her to see the Prime Minister whenever he comes back here.
How many other persons besides Maxwell was on the ship, the boat?
We understand 4 others.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
which
Condolences. Well, it might be preemptive, but my heart is with his wife, his family, and the family of the other individuals who were on the ship, um, who as of now are unaccounted for, and I would phrase it that way.
Yeah. Well, what I can say in addition to what Sean has just said is that we hope for the best.
Yeah,
That's the best I can say. I know that you're a genuine man. I know we are friends. I have been at your house and things like that. I've been to Canada many times because of you, and I'll be down there again, as you know. And
yeah.
I do hope for the best for your friend and for his family and for the other people who were involved. Which brings me to a question I wanted to ask from the beginning. A storm like this is a moment of tragedy, for want of a better word, a moment of terror, right? In your estimation, Terence, you are in my mind. I sometimes call you the mayor of Canawan. I know you don't like me to call you that, but I sometimes call you that, as you know, right? Sometimes I say my general, my commander, things like that. But in your estimation, from your standpoint, from your viewpoint, did this storm help to bring the community more closer? You think are people more more cohesive one with the other because of this storm? In other words, we were all at the peril of this storm. Nobody could do anything. You understand? You could be the strongest man in Canawan. That wind would
Yeah,
have taken you away. And you could have had the strongest house, and that wind could have taken it away as well. So my question
yeah.
is, in face of this adversity, in the face of this damage, in the face of all of this, do you think that it brought a new spirit of unity among the people? Do you think that somehow or the other, they came together better? What do you think?
My brother, that's a good question. I would think, well, I would hope that it brings us back together because you know, this teaches us a lesson, and we should unite even stronger. It teaches that right now in Canada there is no rich, no poor, no middle class in the sense that everybody is now on the same level. Everybody house is been destroyed. We are all in this boat together. You would still have your adversities of persons who may grumble and like anything else, but everybody seems to be in one with each other. I've seen persons who once speaking for a long time, you
Yeah.
see they hug or shake hands, which is a good sign. So I think this would bring us a little stronger than before, and we should unite better than before.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how persons feel about each other. This should be a lesson for us to be more unite and be each other's keeper.
Terry, someone, and the same individual who raised the issue of MV
Benson
guidance
Jasper.
is on the live and asking whether or not Chef, his former co-worker, was also on the boat.
Yeah, the chef is a guy we call Pecco. His name is David Reen. That's what I know as the chef. Yeah, David Reen was on the boat. The engineer, we just call him Redman. He's a red fella. Um, Maxwell as captain, and probably two others. I don't know their name. So those are the five people who have been on board that boat.
Mm. All right, Terry, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us this Sunday. Your story experience very insightful, and I know many individuals who are watching the program uh, got a different viewpoint, because it's one thing to see images because a news reporter went down and so forth, but it's always something special to hear the experience of someone who experienced it. And for this, we thank you, Terry, for sharing that with us. We appreciate the time that you took, and maybe sometime in the future, as the building and the rebuilding really take shape, we could have you come on again and chat a little bit more about what is happening over there. All right.
Thank you very much for having me, and you guys have a blessed evening.
Thank you so much, Terry. Take care. All the
Thank
best.
you, brother.
All right. That was the brother Terrence Bino, uh, who, as you know, from One, who joined us to discuss a little bit about his own experience during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. And Richard, it was quite a moving and telling experience. Having to jump out of one window to jump into the downstairs and so forth, and your family, you know, being in a as it were, as I can only describe, as a sense of desperation, because he's saying, well, if death come, it gotta come, but I gotta get out inside here. You know what I mean? And it's when individuals are faced with that level of adversity, they don't necessarily think much; they
Yeah.
just act.
Yeah. Well, you see, and I I don't know um, about other people, but for me personally, when you're faced with such terror, many things happen to you psychologically. And in the case of Terence, it wasn't just that he could have lost his life, but he could have lost his family. You know what I mean? He lost the roof of his home, you know, but he could have lost his life and his family. And when you face um, adversities of that nature, and within the blink of an eye, you're here no more. Someone you love is here no more. I cannot imagine what that is. I have seen many videos seen on this matter. And I saw a man who was from Carriacou, in Grenada. And he is obviously a man in about his 70s, and he broke down in tears and he said, I would not wish this on my worst enemy. He broke down in
Mm,
tears. He said, I had
mm,
never seen in my 70 odd years of life, I had never seen anything like this. Now, the question we must ask ourselves, Ian, uh, as as Vincentians, you know, is this. We know these facts. One, that these these hurricanes are going to come. It's not if, but only when. But they're always going to be with us. They have been with us. As Terence said, there was a hurricane in 1955, which I wrote about in One Mama Stairs in Vain. called Janet, right? That's 1955, long before I was born, you know. But what we also know are two other facts. They're going to intensify, okay? They're going to be more, and they're going to be stronger because of something called climate change, right? We know that for a fact. And the second fact that we know is that regardless of how much we build and rebuild, right? This is not really an answer. So the question is, what do we do? It's a serious question that you and I cannot answer tonight. A friend of mine, a
What
sociologist here,
all?
a sociologist here in Germany, he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, but probably with this climate change going on, all of you people might have to move off those islands. But where do you go?" This is
Richard.
a serious existential question, Lucian. It might sound like a joke, but it's not.
No,
It's a very, very
you
serious
know,
question. And I think you know that very well. That is why you pursued a master's degree in law, in climate change law. Because I
one
think you
of
know
one of
very
the
well what this is going to.
one of the leaders in the Pacific, I can't remember which country, but his country bought a plot of land on another island because of the level of sea level rise
Yeah.
his island is experiencing. So that country owns I think I can't remember
Yeah.
if it's Palau
I
owning
know the
something in
country.
Fiji or something like that. I can't remember.
It is the same country that had a parliamentary meeting on the water. They actually
Okay,
held the
at
parliament
parliamentary
underwater once.
because there's
It's the
some
very same country.
significant sea
It's one of
level
the islands
rise.
in the Pacific, but I can't remember now.
Yes,
But they
you know,
actually
so
had a parliamentary meeting under the sea to show you how much land has been claimed by the sea with sea level
yes,
rise.
yes. So when you have climate deniers, and if you listen now, for example, there you just had a significant elections in the UK. They're 79 days away from the elections in the US, and there are policymakers in these countries who or that through the industrial revolution did serious damage to our climate. And yet, even though they've done this, they don't think that they've done enough, and they're still saying, "Oh, climate is a hoax," and they're trying to take away our SUVs and our cars. I mean, it's amazing, and even though they are experiencing the same level of weather weather patterns. You've had significant flooding in the UK a couple of months ago. You have much stronger hurricanes coming through the US on the eastern seaboard. As a matter of fact, Richard, it is summer in the UK, and I brought up a bottle of coconut oil because I like coconut oil, homemade coconut oil from St. Vincent and the
Mm.
Grenadines. And even in the middle of August, all through June, all through July, that coconut oil, as Vincent would say, the oil asleep.
Frozen. It's frozen.
The oil is coagulated. So every time I want to use it, I have to actually put the bottle in warm water so I get to use it. And
Yeah.
this is summer.
Yeah. But as you
This
can
is
see,
summer.
I'm wearing not a heavy sweater, but I am wearing a sweater.
Yeah.
And it's summer. I'm in my library. I don't have an air conditioner on. I don't have air conditioning in my house. I don't need it. And I'm wearing a
And if
sweater.
I might say to you, like what you said to Terry, I've been to your house. I know your house. I know where you live.
Yeah.
I know your house. I know your
You know,
house.
yeah, so
Um, so
yes.
so for those individuals who think that it's hip or trendy to bandwagon individuals who deny the impact of climate change, listen, this thing is real. Now we've gone past the first hour of the program, and we're into the second hour of the program. And I did mention to you that we were going to deal with something very specific for the second hour of this program. However, let me give you a preview of what we're going to be having for a few Sundays to come. Next Sunday, we should be having with us, and Richard and I will be here, the individuals from Bonaire, from the Bonaire Human Rights Association. They should be with us next Sunday, chatting with us. There's a major conference that they are hosting or will be hosted on their behalf in Baku, Azerbaijan this week. And I'm going to preempt and let the cat out of the bag and say Richard Byron Cox is going to be attending that conference as the representative of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Uh, to articulate our position at that conference in solidarity with the Bonaire Human Rights Association and the We Want Bonaire Back group. And so, following that conference, which happens this week, that group, members of that group, and Richard would be here with us on Sunday to chat about that conference and the way forward for their struggle. The following Sunday, I've already made connection, so you're gonna love this. The following Sunday, we should be having with us St. Vincent's darling, Miss Shafika Maloney.
Okay.
I've made a connection, and she's agreed in principle. I think she has some meets in Europe coming up this week and so forth, or over the next 2 weeks. So the plan is the first Sunday in September. I think it will be September the 1st. We should have with us, or the second, I think, I can't remember. We should have with us Miss Shafika Maloney sitting down on a Sunday afternoon. So listen, lots of excitement, lots of exciting things happening with this program going forward. I'm still thinking that I need to have James on a Sunday and not a Thursday, because we have more time to discuss with James. But it may be a Thursday. I'm not sure yet.
No.
But this is what we can expect going forward.
Okay. Before we move on with this program, let me just say I think well, congratulations on what will be happening over the next 2-3 weeks. It's fantastic stuff. But I do think that James Snyder should be a Sunday, because he was a member of the Labour Party. I don't know if he still is, but he was as you know, he's your friend. He was Jeremy Corbyn's press secretary, and Keir Starmer, who is the new Prime Minister of Britain. In actuality, in Britain today, you only have a change of faces. Policy is not going to change, and I think it's a serious discussion from many aspects. Earlier.
Okay, I think we have a dropout for Richard. Last week it was me. My camera dropped out, and different things happened for me last week. Now this week it seems that the bug has hit Richard, because he had been kicked out twice already for the program, and it seems that he has frozen and is kicked out again this week. So I'm going to give him some time to get out and get back in, so we can continue the program. But he's making, and he could be able to continue making his point, the point that he was making. Now, so you have an idea of where the program will be going over the next couple of weeks. And yes, James Snyder is one of those. But you see, the thing is, if I keep bringing all my guests on Sundays, then I'm going to guest on Thursdays. I need my guests on Thursdays too, because Thursday is the major program. Thursday is up late with Sehon Marshall. All right, so Richard is back with us.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it's your side or my side. I don't know.
Not mine at all. Not mine.
Well, everything works here. I'm in the library.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not the one freezing up and dropping out. So don't.
I don't know. No, but I was just simply saying that I'm sorry about that if it's my fault. But I was just simply saying that I think it's you earlier tonight in the program, you mentioned the fact that the difference in costs for foreign or international students in Britain, vis-a-vis the cost for British students. One of the discouraging factors in terms of education in Britain, if they're not careful, will be these attacks on foreigners or people who are not white, who are not British in the country right now. You know what is going on there. And so I think that would be a serious discussion as well, that James might want to advise us as to how he sees this. As you know, Sehon, there's a serious problem of Gaza. There's a serious problem of a regional war in the Middle East, what is called the Middle East, but is Western Asia, as you and I know geography, right? There is a stroke in a flames, FLAMES, flames between China, right, and the US, backed up by Britain. All of these things are things that could lead us into the total war, into a nuclear war. This is not a joke here. This is very, very serious issues. As you may know, the British has agreed to sign a 100-year um, pact with the Ukraine, where they will defend Ukraine for the next 100 years, committing Britain to a war with Russia. You understand what I'm saying? So all of these are serious discussions that I think James might be able to give us or give the audience his view on. So I think it would be I think it would be preferable to have James on. My argument is for James to come on a Sunday. That's the point I'm trying to make.
And
My
I was
argument is
saying,
for him to come on a Sunday
I,
rather than
I was saying,
up late.
so if
That's
all
the
my
point
guests
I'm
coming Sunday, I got done up late because all my guests coming on Sunday. Eh? You understand what's going on? So I'm top late. Up late, they want guests
No,
too.
no, no, no.
You
Up,
know?
up late, you would still run the show big time for sure. For sure.
Boy, Anyway. All right. So all this week, I came across some very interesting information, and we're going to have some fun with this, Richard, because this makes for interesting reading. I'm going to read an article that I found on St. Vincent Times
Yes.
this week. It says, strong poll says ULP would retain office, shows strong support for opposition. That is, the poll shows strong support for opposition. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to do my best to read. A recent poll commissioned by the Caribbean Institute for Governance and Policy Research, which was led by consultant Devaron Bruce, a political scientist, stated that of the 1,123 respondents, 33.7% felt that the ULP would retain office, while 30.1% felt that the NDP would capture government. Regarding Vincentian's perspectives on Dr. Godwin Friday's leadership, 32% of the respondents approve of Dr. Friday's performance, which is relatively similar to Dr. Gonzalez's 35.2%. The poll also indicated that regarding possible alternatives to becoming prime minister, opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday was the most preferred at 21%. Following Dr. Friday is Dr. Kishore Shallow at 19%, followed by Saboto Caesar at 17%. I figure they like Dr. Boy. So maybe if I put in Dr. Richard Byron Cox, you might get a 15% too.
Oh, no. There's no need for that. No need for that at all.
When it comes to Vincentian's willingness to elect a younger leader, a majority of 53.5% expressed support, while less than a quarter, 24%, rejected the idea. In terms of Vincentian's views on who stands a better chance of defeating Prime Minister Gonzalez, opposition leader Godwin Friday leads with a percentage of 26.4%. Kishore Shallow with 18.6%, and Sinclair Leacock with 15%. Wow, Kishore doing better than Sinclair. Oops, I guess he need to come Dr. too. The poll stated that given Dr. Friday's position as leader of the opposition, his standing comes as no surprise. On the other hand, Dr. Kishore Shallow has an impressive showing of support despite not yet being elected, and the poll noted. Regarding the percentage of Vincentians who indicate that they will be voting in the next elections, 57% said that they will be voting, while 20% said they will not be voting, and 22.9% indicated that they'll be unsure. They're unsure. So you're looking at about 80%. Not bad. As it relates to Vincentian's approval of the Prime Minister Gonzalez, 35.2% of respondents have approved his performance as Prime Minister. This is particularly notable as Prime Minister Gonzalez is outperforming the NDP, as only 20% of respondents gave a positive. Okay. Oh, sorry. Dr. Prime Minister Gonzalez is outperforming the ULP, as only 20% of respondents gave a positive assessment of the ULP, whereas 40% of respondents disapproved of Prime Minister Gonzalez's performance. Regarding Vincentian's perception of the governing ULP's performance, nearly 50% of respondents gave the ULP a poor rating, with 23.3% and 26.4% giving the ULP no more than a 2 out of 5 rating. It is particularly noteworthy that only 20% of respondents thought the ULP was doing a good job, whereas 28.4% thought the ULP was doing a fair job. In terms of the age demographics, 28.9% of the respondents were age 18 to 30, 34 to 35, okay, or 38.34%, I said that wrong, 38.34% were age 31 to 50, and 20.75% were age 50 to 65, with 11.97% over the age of 65. So, interesting stats, Richard. What jumps out? 23.3% and 20. I'm not sure they clump this together, but 23.3% and 26.4% giving the ULP no more than 2 out of 5 stars. So I guess 23.3% and 26.4% gave the ULP 1 and 2 stars.
Mm-hmm.
And only 20% of respondents thought that the ULP was doing a good job, whereas 28.4% thought the ULP was doing a fair job. So it's a continuum, and I think we could first of all give some context of to those listening or viewing how this really works, because anyone who's done any quantitative research for whether it's a thesis or what have you, understand that when you do a survey, you want to elicit certain response and you ask questions and you can give a continuum. So in this case, for example, they can say, how do you rate the ULP from excellent to poor? So you can have excellent, good, fair, poor, very poor, for example. And so if someone gives the ULP, if you have a percentage given the ULP fair, and you have another percentage given the ULP good, then you could actually clump those two together, and that would be a positive rating for the ULP, in my view, because of the continuum that you're judging on. Because someone who says it's fair, it's positive, it's not bad, it's not poor, it's not very poor, it's fair, right? So there's a continuum clearly. But Richard, what I'm sure you heard about this. What are your thoughts initially about this poll?
Right. I'm glad you asked the question that way. At least I'm glad that you begin that way. What are my initial thoughts? Before I get to any poll and what it says or what it doesn't say, I asked several questions. Firstly, uh, who did the poll and why? Who commissioned it and why? That is the first question I asked, right?
Why is that important?
Well, that is important because you see, depending on who commissioned the poll and what they want to achieve, the poll will impact
Okay, I think Richard is having another problem again, and he's going to have to again jump out and drop in. But it would be interesting to understand what he's thinking when he asks who commissioned the poll, because yes, individuals polls can be commissioned for different reasons, but I think ultimately those commissioning the poll would want to ensure the integrity of the poll so that the results they get,
Okay.
they're
Yeah, I
backed.
don't.
All right, let's go.
Yes, and it is my internet. Something is wrong with it. I don't know. I'm sure now it's mine. Anyway, as I was saying, it is important to understand uh, um, who commissioned it and why, because we all, once we commission something, we have an objective, and we can steer things to suit that objective. You
But
understand what
but
I'm saying?
Richard, but Richard, I hear that, but at the same time, I'm saying that regardless of who commissioned the poll, whether it is for an internal poll, for example, for your own guidance, you would want to ensure the integrity of the poll, and so it would make no sense paying a certain money to get a poll done that you've manipulated the response, unless you're trying to use that result to manipulate the minds of people.
There we go. There we go. There we go. At university, right? We were having an election to elect the guild, the president of the guild. Okay, and a certain faction did a poll, and it shows that the person who actually won the elections 2 weeks later, came last in the poll. Last. And it was hung up on the university walls. That was to be me, who became the president of the Guild. You understand what I'm saying? But according to the poll, Richard Barron Cox was supposed to come last. And I won hands down by a landslide. You understand what I'm saying? I'm talking from experience. I'm talking from experience. You understand? Is it that you want, what is the objective? You understand? Who commissioned the poll and what is the objective? It's very, very important. That's the first thing. Secondly, Sehon, I heard you say that things jumped out at you. You know what jumped out at me, Sehon? Somebody who's not known as a politician. I don't know Dr. Kishon Shallow as a politician. Why isn't Richard Barron Cox's name mentioned? Why isn't Sehon Marshall's name mentioned as a possible young leader? That struck me like a bombshell. He is not a member of any political party, as far as I know. I've never heard of Dr. Kishon Shallow as involved in politics. People know Richard Barron Cox and Sehon Marshall talk about politics very often. On Star FM, we write about it in the newspaper, etc. So that struck me. And all of a sudden, he's way up there. Why? I found that the most strange thing about this poll. Fitz Bramble is not mentioned at all.
I hear that, but here's the
Your
thing.
friend Fitz Bramble is nowhere to be found in the poll as a young.
Fitz makes clear the NDP. That's the way you are saying. But here's the point I'm making, and here's why I didn't see that strange. Here's why I didn't see that strange, Richard. Because Kishore has gotten some significant mileage because of Cricket West Indies.
Yes, that's cricket.
Right? Yes, it is cricket. But for example, you have people like Onisile who came from Cricket West Indies as CEO and went straight into politics. You must admit that part of politics is popularity. And so you can throw the name of a popular individual into the mix to see if there's any traction. And of course, as you mentioned, you're looking at the purpose of the poll. Maybe those who commissioned the poll are trying to see, you know what, they're considering Kishore as a possible candidate, and they wanted to test the waters to see what kind of traction his name would get in a poll. So I don't necessarily say strange.
And I don't want to belabor that point, except to say this. As long as I remember myself from the time I finished university, my name has always been mentioned in politics. Always. It has been mentioned by you, by Denny, by many people, by Prime Minister Gonzalez, and by others. You understand? All of a sudden, my name is not mentioned in the poll as a possible. You understand? This Kishon thing is a strange thing, but I would close on that.
I hear you.
I will close on that. Right. Okay. So let's so now that we have established that polls can be conducted to suit whatever you want. You understand? Let us look at the issues that you want us to look at. First and foremost, irrespective or irregardless, whichever you want, regardless, you know, or what you think or don't think. The poll seems to say that Gonzalez is out front, generally speaking. That's what it says, you know. Yes. That's what the poll seems
ultimately
to say. Yes, generally, that Gonzalez would win if the elections were called now. Okay, that is what number one. Number two, the polls seem to say that within the ULP, the Minister of Finance, Camilo Gonzalez, is nowhere in the picture as a future leader, but rather in the fall of the ULP, it is the Minister of Agriculture, Soboto Caesar, as the young leader.
Caesar, yes.
Right? That is what the polls seem to say. Thirdly, and interestingly enough, it seems to say that Bad Boy Leacock has basically stand no chance. Right? And I mentioned him. You say that we should dismiss him, but I mentioned him. I'm going to mention him again because Fitz Bramble made it quite clear that, well, his future is leadership of the NDP, but Fitz Bramble is also nowhere to be mentioned. Now, what do you make of a poll like that? Is it there to confuse whom? Me, you, the general electorate, the ULP, or the NDP? Who is it there to confuse?
So,
That's
so you,
in.
so you, so you, so you, so I take it, Richard, that you've concluded that the poll, the ultimate objective of the poll is to confuse.
Well, the
Because
ultimate
the
objective
question you ask is, who is it there to
to
confuse? So
confuse.
based on that
Yes.
question,
You understand what I'm
I'm saying
saying?
that's your conclusion.
Who is there? Who is it there to confuse? Because it is clear to me, a very apart from what I said before, that outside of the ULP winning, everything else, you understand what I'm saying, seems to want to sow confusion somewhere, somehow, inside some place, somehow. So within the ULP, and these are the things might be missed by people. They might be missed by people, but they're not missed by me, right? Some people, right, want to say, well, boy, Camilo, boy, you relax yourself, because Prime Minister Gonzalez has these two as his two lieutenants after him. If you remember last election, it was him
Right.
and both at his sides. You understand? That was clear. And we remember what happened at the last party convention. I wouldn't go into that, right? And we also know, if you recall, Mr. Leacock clearly stated, Sinclair Leacock stated, when we win, I expect to be Deputy Prime Minister. He did not wait, you understand, for Godwin Lauren Friday to say who is going to be his deputy. He said, no, 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 no. I will be Deputy Prime Minister. You understand what I'm saying? The point I'm trying to make is it that the poll is trying to gauge for us what the next election would say, or is it trying to gauge something else? Do you get my point?
Ben Jasper said that Fitz was polled, but Fitz was mentioned, but polled extremely low. So, so,
Right?
so maybe he was. But I get the
Okay.
point that you're making, Richard. That uh, as you said, maybe it's trying to sow some seeds of discord. So, if you maybe the NDP thinks that Leacock is getting too big for your boots, so you train Kishore Shallow to just temper him a little bit, to partner, relax, you're on the decline. You know, maybe it is that, again, it is intended to create that level of confusion within their party, because those who are unable to control and exert any real leadership over their party, who feel threatened, need some sort of data to say, look, this is what the data say. You're not polling strong. Maybe it is that they try to see if they could sow some seeds of discord within the ULP, because I did see something somewhere that suggested that, listen, Kishore is polling, and Camilo is nowhere. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So
And
so
Kishore
so
is, so
and he's not even a politician. So
okay.
I take it, what you're saying. I can see what you're saying.
Right. So now I can hit the nail exactly on the head the way I wanted to, because now I've gotten into the door that I wanted to get into. Now that you've answered that, isn't it clear to you, Sion, that there are two things? One is that as it stands now, Godwin cannot challenge Ralph. If you go to the elections with Godwin, Ralph will win. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
That is one. That is very clear from the poll.
yes,
That's one.
yes.
Two, Leacock is even going to do worse than Godwin. So you cannot replace Leacock with Godwin. You cannot replace Godwin with Leacock,
You're really tough. Yes.
because Leacock is doing.
Okay. Yeah, your internet is just dropping out. But I just found the way the headline was written as well. Um, sh- uh, Poll says ULP would retain office, shows strong support for the opposition. But if you look at this, where the opposition is polling at at 30%, right? 30%. And the government is polling at 33%, almost 34%. That's actually a bigger gap and a bigger margin than currently exists. So for a headline to suggest that somehow there's a strong support for the opposition, when the opposition, based on the popular vote last election, was about 50.1 or 50.1% or something like that, and so of the popular vote. I'm not sure if you can say it's a strong showing because it would represent a decline from where they currently are, or where they were last elections. So that's interesting. And like Richard said, with Godwin polling at 32% and Dr. Gonzalez at 35%, you see that in terms of leadership, Dr. Gonzalez is still outdoing and outperforming Godwin Friday. You were saying, Richard?
Yes, I promise everybody next time before the show start, I will restart my what do you call that thing? You know, yeah, I will restart my movement, because I think that's the problem. But anyway, let me get back to what I'm saying. So it is clear that whoever did the poll is telling me, look, you cannot go into the next election with Godwin if you want to win, because Ralph is going to beat him. And if you decide to change Godwin, you understand? Leacock ain't it. But outside of that, listen to this. Listen to me carefully, right? The only good choice you have is a younger leader. And if you could swing the thing into believing in the young thing, the NDP would win. Why? Because if they make Shallow the leader, Shallow will beat
Soboto.
What's his name? Soboto. Because Shallow is 19 and Soboto is 17. There's something wrong here. I don't know if you understand the picture I'm trying to paint here, but it worries me.
Why does it worry you? Worry is a strong word.
No. When I say worries me, I don't mean it worry me in the sense that I don't understand. You understand? But rather the objective of the thing. Is the objective of the thing really to say to you that, look, this is where St. Vincent stands politically as regards in next election? This is not the objective of this poll. It is certainly not. This is certainly not. And because of that, the authenticity of the data, I question seriously. Very, very seriously. Look at it carefully, Sehon. Analyze it carefully. Go into it deeply. I question that seriously. Now, let us deal with the data as you read it to us tonight. Okay? We see.
No. Before you do that, let me bring in. I know these are your favorite people, but you can't. I promise you cannot talk your age. You have to listen. But this is the take of the guys on Hot 97 of the poll when they were talking about it.
Yes.
Most of the online sites are now reporting about this survey. Survey was done by a Barbados-based research entity. You see, Eyewitness News took it from a slightly different angle. They're saying, if I read their first thing, almost half of the people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, so slightly less than 50%, polled by a Barbados-based research entity, gave the ruling UOP a poor rating just under 2 years before the general elections are constitutionally due. The UOP received a poor rating from 23.3% of respondents, while 26.4% gave the party more than 2 out of 5 rating, 23 years after it was first elected to office. The survey found that only 20% of respondents thought the UOP was doing a good job, whereas 28.4% thought the party was doing a fair job. Now, I think Eyewitness News headline.
Get them going, man.
I think his emphasis is wrong. I would say if almost 50% of the population, so it's 20 plus 28.8, so that's 48.4% of the population think the UOP is doing a fair to good job. If I'm NDP, I'm bricks.
Bricks as in what?
As in
Frightened?
Bricks coming out of me.
You gonna make bricks?
Bricks.
Oh my! I didn't even see a mix up in there.
How could you have the current situation with the cost of living as high as it is, with unemployment seemingly high, crime definitely high, and still almost 50% of the population think they're doing a fair to good job? That doesn't bode well for the opposition.
Maybe some people are afraid to say what they actually think.
You know, if I had the calculate, I would bring it down to
the line.
Yeah,
Could be. Especially when they think it's going on record.
You know the normal
even if
Vinci
you're,
thing.
even if you're not giving your name or whatever.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm all,
I think the Europeans are good at keeping that narrative.
So you think
Out
this
of
whole thing
people's
is a
mouth.
lie?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I said, boy, I hate talking with Luke here.
That's what you're
I
saying.
hate talking with Luke.
So what are you saying?
That's
What
not
are
what
you-
I'm saying.
What are you saying?
I'm saying it's a possibility that maybe people, are afraid to.
They're just conveniently saying what they think you want to hear.
I think it's easy to say, yeah, they're doing all right.
I come down to brass tacks.
Even if
So
I might be
50% saying they're not doing all right.
Look at
The
that
50% that said they are doing all right, you're questioning whether they're
No,
being honest.
I think
Are you questioning the ones who said they're not doing all right?
Right.
Are you
that
questioning
what
them?
that they're biased.
Yeah.
All right, stick up and stick up.
You know, I have to give Luke some credit there. I have to give Luke some credit there for that question he raised. If you're questioning the authenticity of those who say that the 48% who say the government is doing all right, that's but maybe they're not telling the truth, maybe not. I do the same thing for those the 52% or the 51 point something percent that said things are terrible, we're going to hell in a handbasket. You understand what I'm saying? Why are you only willing to be skeptical and critical and all that stuff about anybody who says something? If and you know, Richard, that is indicative of the society we're in. If you support the government, you lick boots, you're this, you're that, you're whatever. If you oppose the government, you're a patriot.
Yeah, but
It's
you see,
crazy.
the clip you showed, it has Luke as Skywalker. That's what it has him written there, and so
Yeah,
it reminds me
that's how
that
you feel yourself.
that Ralph always says some people have their feet planted firmly in the sky. You understand? Ralph always says that, that some people have their feet planted firmly in the sky. That was the
Yeah.
first thing that came to me when I saw that, But yes. Now you play that, and I want to respond in two basic ways. Firstly, as you know, I don't think the people there are necessarily friendly towards Gonzalez. They're not necessarily friendly. They're not disposed to him, so to speak. You understand? They're not disposed to him. And but yet, as you said, Luke says, well, look, if I were the opposition, I would be worried. You understand? That's the first thing Luke says here. Bricks would be coming out of me. Again, Sian, what does the poll tell us? The poll is saying, Sian, look carefully, that the best that the ULP can do is what they have now, which is Ralph. You understand what I'm saying? That's the best. But and they will win. And the best that the NDP can do is not necessarily what they have, but if they go with what they have, they will still lose.
Right.
So the onus is upon the NDP to change, and in comes the picture of Shallow. I keep answering that question. In comes the picture of Shallow. Now, that's the first response I have to make to that. The second response I have to make to that is this: that Luke is, as you said, Luke goes in and he looks at the figures, and he calculates them. And this is what he says. Listen to him. He says, with all of he didn't use the word negatives, but that is what it meant. With all of these negatives, unemployment so high. You understand? And he didn't say unemployment. He said cost of living so high. Unemployment. Right? Unemployment seemingly. He said seemingly high.
Right.
And crime definitely high. Those are his exact words. You understand?
Right.
So he's saying all of this picture and the present opposition, you understand, cannot make an impact. The poll is there to address not what is likely possible in the coming election. There's something else behind it. And it has to do first and foremost with the internal politics of the NDP. And that makes me, as I said before, seriously question, you understand, the postulations, the arguments, the results of that poll. It is very, very clear in 21. And it is not surprising that Luke began there. He said, if I were in the opposition, bricks would be coming out of me.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is what he said. It is clear to everyone. It is very, very clear to everyone. CN, I am saying to you, and you probably would not agree with me,
Yeah. We having that problem. We having that problem, and I really apologize to our viewers because we've been having that problem with Richard's internet the whole evening. But we coming close to the program. We have about 10 minutes to go or so. Richard will drop out and come back in, I'm sure. But I give Luke credit for raising that issue. But another aspect that I want the listeners, the viewers, to consider is, could it be that some of the same issues that, and this there's so much to unpack in this poll, mind you, but could it be that some of these issues are manufactured, and they're not attracting, they have no traction among the general population? Yes, people maintain their line. So if you're supporting NDP, we are going to hell in a handbasket. Crime is rampant. Unemployment, there's 100, as one of the candidates campaigning in the US said, over 100% unemployment, more than 100% unemployment. Um, you have cost of living that was created, cost of living crisis created by the ULP. It has nothing to do with what is going on globally. So with all of that, um, you 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 wonder how much of this is manufactured by some of these talking heads in radio every day to try and sway the population, and it's not impacting because people are at work. You're saying unemployment is 115%, but people are working. You're saying that cost of living is high because of Ralph, but people know, because the families in the US and the families in England tell them, listen, things are expensive. What I used to get, what I used to use to pack a barrel, what I used to get for $300 when I used to send barrel for you, I can't half a barrel now. And so people are knowing, listen, these things, these prices, this inflation is imported inflation. So there's a lot of created, some of these issues are manufactured, and I think people are seeing through all of them. But you were saying before you got cut off, Richard.
Yeah, I think probably I fixed it now. I'm not sure, but next time I'll make sure I restart the thing. Anyway,
Mhm.
because this never really happens to me. Anyway, as I was saying, Cian, a careful read of the poll, it's clear to me it's addressed to the NDP. It is clear to me. Now, um, the 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 poll makes it rather clear. I've said it before, but let me drive it home now, that if the status quo is maintained, the ULP is certain to regain government. You understand? That is what the
Mhm.
poll actually makes clear, right? That
Mhm.
the ULP is certain to recapture government if the status quo is maintained. Okay? Now, it is interesting to note when the poll is conducted. The poll is conducted exactly what? 1.5 years before the elections are constitutionally due. Not
Yes.
1 year. You understand what I'm saying? But one and
Yes.
a half year before. Okay? That timing tells me something else. I don't know if you're reading the same thing that I'm reading, but it tells me something else. Okay? Outside of that, we know, you and I, the country knows that the ULP will go into the next election with Prime Minister Gonzalez as its leader. This we know. There has been no change. There's been no argument over that whatsoever. So the ULP will go into the next election with Prime Minister Gonzalez as its leader. Now, with that, he will win. The question, therefore, is the NDP smart enough to read the writing on the wall and don't go? You understand? With Godwin as leader, and don't make the mistake and try to give it to the because he was. You understand? But listen
Mm.
to this. You began, if you read it again, it makes it clear that people are interested in a younger leader.
Yes.
That is what makes
according to the poll, it says about 50. Where are we?
Read it
Let me
for them.
get the, let me get
Because I
this.
want to
Let me
make the
get it.
case clear to the people that I am not fooled by this poll. I
It
want to
says
make the case clear
when
to our audience
when
tonight.
it comes to Vincentian's willingness to elect a younger leader, the majority of 53.5% expressed support, while 24% rejected completely. Now in that right there, Richard, that's about 80%. It means that 20% are neither here nor there. So chances are you're looking at over 70% possibly being willing to accept a younger leader, because
Amen, Sian.
those who
Amen.
are not sure.
Hallelujah.
You would think.
Hallelujah. And then when we break it down now, between the two most likely younger leader, who has the advantage?
The NDP. Kishore Shalom.
That's it. Amen. Hallelujah. Look at it carefully, Sian. Read through the lines. My mother taught me.
So who's trying to push out Gavin Friday?
Before we go on to that, see, I'm sure Miss Marshall would have told you this. I'm sure, because she is she's younger than my mom by about 12 or so years. But my mother used to tell me this, Richard, you must not just read the lines. You must read between the lines, above the lines, below the lines, but most importantly, beyond the lines. Read beyond the lines. What is it intending to say? You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what this poll is about. This is what this poll is about. It is about nothing else.
You know what I find, Richard? You know what I find? I also find, and we're coming way to the end, so we're almost done. I also find the demographics a little strange as well.
Amen. I was coming to that, I was really coming to that.
Because youth is 18 to 35. Why cut it off at 30?
You see, I was coming to that, but let me leave it there.
I find the demographics kind of strange as well. I mean, and without doubt, the NDP has admitted this through its vice president, Sinclair Lika, that the ULP captures the majority, 60, 65, 70% of the first-time voters, the young voters, at every election. So I mean, it would be also interesting for you to tell us in the demographics what they're saying. I mean, when you have hundreds of people in Taiwan and so forth, and the young people being invested,
you're exactly right.
What are they saying?
You are exactly right, Sian. You are exactly right. You see, so as I asked at the beginning when you brought up the issue, which is a serious discussion, and we could have talked a whole night about it. You understand?
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Talk a whole night
about. There's so much to talk. There's so much to unpack in this.
Unpack here. It's crazy.
There's so much to
unpack. As I asked from the beginning, you understand? Who commissioned and what is the objective? Those are the two fundamental questions that we must answer. Who commissioned and what is the objective? You understand? And a part of that objective is clear to me, very, very, very clear to me. I wouldn't say what it is, but it's clear to me. And you have to ask yourself whether or not they wanted to confuse the public. And I am sure, I am certain, I'm absolutely certain that a message was being sent to somebody. If we play ball, meaning the NDP, if we play ball the same way, Ralph is going to give us another cutback side. That is for sure. And so we have to change the game. As it stands now, we're not changing the game. We haven't changed anything. We have not done anything change. But the important thing is that Ralph does not need to make any change whatsoever. He could just go like this and he would win. So the ball is in our court and how we are going to play it. That is the question.
But the ball in their court, I don't even know the ball is in their court, because the point is, for you to do anything with the ball in their court, simply put, Richard, it means that when they change and put Kishore as the president, then PM is going to have to say, okay, since the NDP changed and put Kishore, let me change and put Sabuto. which makes no sense because the poll says he's going through even less, he's going through even worse than Dr. Friday. So, what is the point?
But you see, they're banking on the argument that overall, that's the fundamental argument now, that overall Vincentians are willing to elect a younger leader. And if you go for that, you understand, Kishon is out front. That's the overall argument. That they're banking on that.
Yeah, but they're banking on that. But that's not what the poll is saying. The poll is saying if you put two young leaders, these are the people.
Yes.
Because 35% of the people say the person that who are themselves.
Yes.
That's clear. So somehow they're going to have to try and change the mindset of those who say that the 35% to say Dr. Gonzalez is who you are. I see what I go. I'm not.
But as you said, Sehon, there's so much to be unpacked here. But if I may say in two short sentences, this the conduct of the poll and the results of it tells us three basic things. One, the political landscape as it stands now favors the ULP. That's the first thing it tells us, right? Secondly, the poll failed to seriously investigate in any way, shape, or form what people think of the opposition's performance. There's nothing mentioned there at all in the poll about as you read. Okay?
Right.
The performance of the opposition.
Right.
In other words, as a government in waiting. You understand what I'm saying? That question was not asked. How does people see? You understand? The NDP as a government in waiting. And lastly, it focused a lot in this particular part of the poll. It focused a lot on personality. You understand what I'm saying? Nothing was said about policy programs, etc. It focused on personality. You understand what I'm saying? And these 3 points are 3 points that we need to look at as to why. Overall, I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that the first issue was really who would win the next election, but rather how does the NDP reconstruct so that it might have a chance of winning the next election. Because the poll is saying we know for a fact that we
lose.
That if the status quo is maintained, the ULP shall surely win. That's the point.
Okay. All right, Richard. Thank you so much, bro. And with that, we come to the end of another Sunday Live. A conversation on a Sunday afternoon. I want to thank Terence Bino, who joined us for the first hour, and all those of you who came and joined us and sat with us and took part in our discussion. You commented on the live. Thank you so much for being a part. Hopefully this program will continue to grow and more and more individuals would see the value of joining us on a Sunday afternoon to discuss a number of critical issues that are relevant to us as Vincentians and us as human beings in general, citizens of this world. Until next Sunday, Richard, when we'll have you and the group from Bonaire.
Yes.
Let us say good evening and thank everyone for being a part of the program. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
All right.